Hey, welcome back. I want to talk about nutrition today. We've talked about intermittent fasting, and I think that's a good place to start. This video is just going to dive a little more into what you should be eating, regardless if you're trying to do intermittent fasting or you're just looking to eat healthier. So, I wanted to simplify basically what you should eat and maybe touch on like a little bit how much you should eat. So first things first, nutrition, layman's definition is just the food you put in your body and the nutrients that it delivers. So it's important because if you want to optimize your health and your performance, then you'll really dial in, is what is common in the sports world. You'll dial in your nutrition. So I think there's two quotes that really resonate with me, and I think a lot of people can understand them. The first one is eat real foods, mostly plants, and not too much. So it's all said right there in the quote. Most of the food you should eat is plants, and then not too much of whatever you are eating. Typically, you won't need a second helping. You might not need a snack throughout the day. If you're eating healthy, wholesome meals, that should cover it. The second quote I like is, if it didn't grow on the ground, in the sea, in a tree, or have a heartbeat, don't eat it. And that does a good job at like dispelling a lot of things that you don't need, like potato chips, ice cream, um, cheese. Like there are things that you don't need to eat, you just like them. So again, if they don't have a heartbeat, they didn't grow on the ground, on a tree, or in the sea, you just don't need to eat it. And that would cut out a lot of things that people struggle with. So that's another one I like. So if you're able to eat more vegetables, keep your diet, nutrition, mostly centered around plants, things that had a mom, grew on a tree, grew in the sea, those things are going to improve your health markers. If you are someone who struggled with like high cholesterol or high blood sugar or things like that, if you were able to focus your diet around these foods, you would see a drastic change. And your doctor, when you got blood work, would be like, holy crap, what did you do? And all you could say is, I ate real food, mostly plants, and not too much. And that would drastically improve your health. I wanted to quick address some big misconceptions as well. So there are a lot of things like organic potato chips and organic ice cream, grass-fed, whatever, insert junk food. Those things are still junk. If you're eating organic ice cream, it's still ice cream. There's still some degree of sugar. There's still some bad consequence towards your cholesterol, whatever it may be. Those things that say organic, health-based, blah, 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 and you know it didn't grow on the ground, in a tree, in the sea, or have a heartbeat, it's still not good for you. So you don't have to make that choice. Another thing brands like to do is they like to put high protein on something. So I see this a lot with like granola bars or those quick to go snacks. If you'll see high protein, you're like, oh cool, this thing has 12 grams of protein, and you flip it over and it's got like 30 grams of sugar. That's not good for you. There's a better choice you could be making, and you could avoid putting all that sugar in your body. Last thing is, people talk about macronutrients, so that is protein, fat, carbs, and they're like, oh, if I could just dial in my macros. And I think that's a good thing if you can eat real food, mostly plants, not too much first. If you try to start with macros, you're still going to allow yourself to like have pizza and Pop-Tarts and drink soda, because if you can fit it into your macro numbers, you're still going to eat it. I think a better place to start is just eating more real foods. If you can get yourself to eat better food more often, and then you see those results, then maybe you'll dive into the macro world and try to dial in more from there. I think it's much better though for you to start with just eating real foods, and trying to avoid the processed sugary stuff. Lastly, a good way to put this into practice is when you're at the grocery store, stick to the perimeter. It typically goes dairy, butcher, produce. And if you can stick to your food in those areas and avoid going down the center lanes, with all the sauces and highly processed foods, the ones that have a really long shelf life are typically not good for you. There are some outliers in there, but for the most part, if you can get most of your grocery shopping done on the perimeter of the store, you're doing well. So I would start there. Again, eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. And I think you'll see a lot of good increases in your health, your sleep, your performance, your skin. Like everything starts to become better if you can start putting more whole foods, real foods in your body. If you got any questions about nutrition, hit me up, Instagram or YouTube. Love to chat with you. See you next time.